Hey guys, Kevin here to bring you a brand new video. For today, we're going to be doing day 23 of Horror October, and the film that we're going to be talking about today is a film called The Host. This is actually directed by Bong Joon-ho, who directed Parasite, Snowpiercer. I could not get into Snowpiercer, but I do love Parasite. Parasite is an amazing film, so I was excited to see what this could bring. So the thing about this movie is that it's not really anything that new and exciting exactly, because basically it's just this monster that comes alive and kills people. So you could compare this to Jaws. I also see some parallels to War of the Worlds a little bit, just this feeling of terror with this unfamiliar thing and these characters who have this sort of bond. You have this father who has a daughter who he's trying to help and protect. Similar vibe. And it's also similar to Jaws, because obviously it's a monster trying to eat people. So yeah, it's not anything that special. But I will say it does do well in a lot of parts, because it's not just this ordinary story as much. And you really have good quality character development here with all of these different characters and each of their perspectives that they have. You have this father who's lazy. He's not all that there. He's a little bit flawed of a person, but he cares about his daughter, and his daughter gets captured. He wants to save her. And then you have this archer who's uh, Olympic medalist, I believe. I believe she was in the Olympics, but she was an athlete basically, and she gets involved. And then there's the uncle, or the father's brother, who's kind of taking his own stance on it, hey, this guy isn't taking care of his daughter. Does he really care? He's holding that perspective. Then you have the grandfather who's he cares about all of them. He wants everything to be all right. So yeah, you have this whole dynamic here between these characters. That's fun to see. And with a Bong Joon Ho film, I think this is similar to Parasite, because it really doesn't always try to be horror, because Parasite turns into a horror movie not until later. This has those times where you're just focusing on the characters and just developing the characters and seeing how the characters are, not necessarily this monster, or being afraid of it, constantly playing up the score with it. It's more just okay, let's slow it down. Let's just see what's going on here and just dive in to these people to see the way they are, And then when it wants to be horror, it turns into horror. This monster is terrifying, and it runs after you, it chases you. And the movie's not afraid to just turn that up real quick. The moment they see it, they're oh god, And there's just different good moments like that where it's just suddenly bam, it hits you. I think what's also unique about this is that it's sort of made in a way that does feel it's apart from other Jaws movies, because there's shots and just elements of it, of the way this monster is and how they're being chased and what they do to try to defend themselves, things like that. And there's some cool moments that I think are really smart. One that I want to point out is this moment where this whole group of people is looking outside, and they're seeing this thing for the first time. They're seeing this monster way off in the distance under this bridge, and they're "What is that?" And then all of a sudden we get a jump cut to this grandfather and his granddaughter, and they're watching a game, and they just suddenly scream, and you think it's them screaming, but it's actually just them screaming at the game. You're oh geez, okay. That's effective. And there's a time when they're in a shed, and they can see this thing through the cracks of the shed, and they're and you can see both of their faces looking through, and then the monster's just lurking out there. Now this film isn't exactly amazing, just because it's not it's not like wholly original, and you know the premise is kind of built a little lazily, I thought, just with this like whole like formaldehyde thing, where like at the beginning, you know, this guy pours a bunch of chemicals down a drain, and then you know that's what causes this. They don't really like go into detail about that, or just say like how it was created. They just say like, oh, these chemicals must have caused that. Like they don't even like show the monster like forming or anything like that. You could make the theory that it's actually like a monster made of fish, because at one point when they're trying to kill this thing, it like a fish comes off of it, so you could argue it's like a monster that's just like a formation of all these creatures in the river. But the other problem lies with the fact that I I never really like thought about this much until now, but like movies really just can't kill off like kids. Like they have a problem with killing off kids because that would look really bad and terrifying to see a kid getting like killed, obviously. And like that's like the whole like thing about this movie is like this girl gets captured, and they thought she was dead because they literally saw her like in the mouth of this thing, like she was getting eaten by this thing, and then like she survives and like stays in the sewer for a while, and they're trying to like find her, and that's like a good amount of this movie, and that just bothers me. Like what would a monster do that in real life? No, absolutely not. Like the only reason why they do that is because like it looks bad in the movie, like it's too gruesome for a kid to die. But dude, I just watched Martyrs. That movie is fucking gruesome as hell, and it doesn't hold back. So you can like not hold back also. So yeah. And like with that, we get this kind of like abnormal ending that's not like what you'd expect necessarily, but like it doesn't really land that well because it's like it's trying to be something different, but just it doesn't like stick it for me. And yeah, I don't want to spoil it, but it's just weird and off-putting. Just something didn't feel right about it. I mean, like the ending like was exciting. Like there's a lot of like exciting stuff that plays out, but ultimately the outcome is just kind of like I don't know. And last but not least, the other thing to talk about is the fact that this is actually like a virus movie, even though it doesn't seem like it is, because like the whole thing is about like this thing that supposedly like transmits a virus to you, and that's what they're like perpetuating. But it turns out that maybe it's not a virus at all, and this is just misinformation, or they're being misled to think that it's a virus, and this causes like all this panic, and like they're worried about like passing it on, and you have this whole thing of like they're wearing masks and they're trying to stay safe. So even though I didn't think this was going to be a pandemic movie, it is kind of a pandemic movie. So yeah, there's that. I wasn't huge on it just because the inclusion of this element didn't necessarily work all that well. I felt like if they took out like the fact that it was like transmitting a virus, like the movie probably would have still been great. Like I don't know. It's fine, I guess. So yeah. I decently enjoyed this movie. I'm going to give it an 8.5 out of 10. So yeah, hope you guys have enjoyed the video. Make sure to leave a like if you have, and I'll see you guys in the next one.